Well, welcome back. C2E2 Day 3. After having a little bit of confluxions early on yesterday, God turned it around. We kicked some butt. But right now, I want to tell y'all something. Barbara Jinx, the creator of Serenade, rocking, and I mean rocking. Hot. Robert, stand up for a second. Show him. It's off. Isn't that lovely? She is hot. Serenade creator in the flesh. Look at it. It's okay. I mean,
chair in the way?
No, chair's fine. Look, she is hot. You can't touch that today. Barbara Jenkins, Serenade creator, rocking a hot dress. So, if you just and look at her, she is Serenade. My. Look at that. You can't get no better than that. And we're gonna have a whole lot more of her come. You know, for throughout the show, just to show off. You got to show that off. So until later, y'all. And as you can see, we've got the lovely Barbara Jenkins rocking a hot ass dress. Now, if for all you ladies out there, you want to hate, go right on ahead and hate, because look at that. That is my. And she is the creator of Serenade. And right now on sale, that dropped at C2E2, issue 11. Check it out. So if you want, now is it life imitating art or art imitating life? Calm down, C2E2, either right now or next year, and find out for yourself. Or if you want to see what's really going on about Barbara Jenkins and her creativity, go to www.kissmecomics.com.
Okay, we're here live at C2E2 2013. As you can see, we came this year, and we have our latest issue of Serenade here, issue number 11. As you can see, it's rated R, so that's for adult content and everything, so little kids cannot read this. So, please come down to C2E2 2013 and check us out.
Okay, cool. I am with Terry Huddleston, black comic entrepreneur and legend, one of the founding members and one of the last remaining.
No, that's not true. I was going to correct you earlier.
Okay, correct me then.
I just look like one of the characters from the old Wildstorm icon.
Okay. But Terry Huddleston has been within the black comic genre. He is Godfather as far as I'm concerned. Terry, thank you so much for being a very special part of Lip Service.
All right. Well, yeah, it's good to be an inspiration to somebody, so I thank you for your kind words. But I've watched comics change from, being primarily one demographic to, now you come to any given comic book show, there's Asian artists, South American artists, black artists, white artists, Mexican artists. It's nice. And that's something that if you haven't been in comics long, you take for granted. You think it's always been that way. But it is not. I think in the past 15 years, it's gotten very, very diverse as to who's reading and who's drawing them. So it's good to see.
So what got you, how did you get into this crazy industry in the first place?
Well, Superman, put quite simply, Christopher Reeve's Superman made me love superpowered human beings that, were good and that would save you from sometimes your mistakes with sometimes natural disasters. And that kind of, mythology kind of appealed to me as a young kid. But the reason why I started drawing comics was Eastman and Layer's original Ninja Turtles run really blew my mind when I first saw it. So that's the 1-2 punch that got me drawing comics.
Okay. So now, with your storied career, what has been your greatest achievement?
Well, since my wife's right here, marrying this woman right here, but second to that, I would say basically coming out with this series you see behind me has been pretty successful and life-changing all at the same time. So coming up with a distinct pop culture voice that resonates with fans, I guess.
So now I gotta from here I gotta go to a little nuts and bolts. How do you deal with the legalities of making prints with, let's face it, with trademark images?
Well, much like Prohibition jazz era liquor, there's a gray zone that basically DC and Marvel, as long as you're the artist, you can make renditions of your own versions of their characters. I mean, as you can see, you've been around the show. Marvel and DC is here. If they really wanted to enforce it, they can come shut down this half of the show because everybody's, partaking. So my best analogy is this. We're indie bands doing cover songs. We're the talent. They're going to come over here to get the fresh, new, hot talent, and so they let us support ourselves. Kind of, it's a symbiote relationship, so to speak. They need us. We need them. And in that way, it's enforced. Now, what you cannot do is you can't do necessarily a full-on merchandise run of toys and clothing, apparel, and all kind of stuff and set up your own shop selling merchandise and expect they will bring the hammer down on that.
So, with you being a pioneer, especially for African Americans, what more needs to be done in order to get more African Americans into the fold?
Well, just really business education. Business education, I think, is fundamental. And once you get that aspect down, you can enter into any field and be successful. Not only just comics, but anything you set your mind to, as long as you know how to crunch the numbers and how markets work. Speaking of markets, I got to get back to serving mine. So it was definitely nice talking to you, man.
And we've been talking with Terry Huddleston, legend extraordinaire. For anybody, whether you're black, white, or whatever, this man is where you want to go and where you want to be. And Terry, once again, thank you so much.
Not a problem. See you later, man.
Okay. Well, thank you. It's been slow going. It was only about 2 hours left of C2E2, but we've made we've made a little bit and everything. So thank you God, thank you Jesus. I'm happy. So I'm hoping. First of all, I'd like to thank the powers that be. Thank you God first off for giving us the ability and the capability of making such stuff happen.
I did beat that Israel. I saw that Israel.
Dajane.
God damn, that's a big dude.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big dude.
Okay. And thank you, C2E2, for branching out and reaching out to the local podcasters and giving us the opportunity to even be here to talk about C2E2 and to show off not only about who we are and what we do, but everything else. So, managed to get at least one interview out the way and everything. I was hoping for two. Who knows? There's still time. We'll find out. We'll see. But if nothing else, from here, hopefully, if you like the show, tell your friends, tell somebody, subscribe and follow up, because I still have a few other interviews, and we're gonna get back to regular lip service and everything. So if you're an artist or you're a creator or a fan, you have an opinion, do not hesitate to give us suggestions or give us a hint, and I have no problem about doing an interview. If you're a studio and you want to have your work reviewed, send me a digital copy. I have, and I will give you a review. I'm not one of those who sits up here and wants to criticize somebody's work. There's enough of that going on. So from here, I will review the work and be honest and be for it. And as you can see, right behind me is the lovely Barbara Jenkins, and she's still rocking that dress. Look at that, boobies! Woohoo! So from here, hopefully, as far as I'm concerned, C2E2 has been a success. One of the second or third best cons we've had in a long time. And hopefully in June 5th, 6th, and 7th, hopefully, God willing, we will be at the MightyCon in St. Charles, Illinois. And down there, I'm telling you now, the newest Bountyhunter 7 will be there. We still have copies of Serenade number 11. We'll actually hopefully hope to have a reprint for Serenade, and for all those folks who are looking for Bounty Hunters 4 and 5. I'm planning to get reprints of those, so you can come on down or hit our store www.kissmecomics.com and get yourself a copy. So hopefully this not the least, and hopefully not the last. I'm Stash Jenkins. Okay, folks, I do have someone of very special interest, Michael the Collector Pfeiffer. Michael, welcome to Lip Service.
Thank you. I'm very pleased to be here.
You have shown me something that is I have never seen in any realm of the word comic book. And this is a treasure, a book. First of all, tell us what the book is about, and it's one of a kind.
I decided to do an art book on Doomsday, the character who kills Superman. And I elected to do it because of copyright restrictions as an artist edition only, which means I printed enough copies to provide one for each artist who contributed a piece and one for myself as the editor. The book is hardbound, cloth covered, in a slipcase with a sewn-in ribbon page marker, and each full bleed art print is covered with a sheet of vellum. The left-hand page has the name of the artist, their biography, and a paragraph where they describe the artwork, and a signature line to make it a collectible book as well as an art book. I produced less than 100 copies, and they were as gifts to the participating artists.
And with that itself, it is already. What have been some of the art that have contributed to this phenomenal project?
The very well-known artists, people like Neil Adams, Mitchell Bentley, who is the president of the American Society of Science Fiction and Fantasy Artists, Dave Dorman, Bill Sienkiewicz, Tim Vigil, Luis Diaz, Coy Turnbull, Sadiq Savir, and the list goes on and on. There are 70 participating artists in all.
So it is a virtual who's who of some of the top artists that are producing comics as it is now. What were some of the restrictions and for them to produce this work?
The major restrictions were I did not want to have either anime or manga, and I specifically instructed the artist I do not want a DC style guide version of Doomsday. I wanted them to do a depiction of Doomsday as if they were to create the character. So it is their interpretation.
And therein lies, to me, what has grabbed my attention is you have taken what had the true heart of what comics was supposed to be about, where the artist actually was being creative for a change.
Yes, each artist was allowed to exercise their creativity and freedom to depict the character as they wished. There are pencil pieces, there are pen and ink sketches, there are comic book color versions, there are oil paintings, there are watercolors, there are acrylics, and there are digital paintings. It's the full variety of medium at play.
And to me, therein lies the true talent of these creators. Now, do you feel that with the way comics are produced now, does that stifle creativity or does it enhance it?
Well, there are a couple of factors at play here that I think have, over the years, hurt the industry. Number one, it's not a high-paying industry for many of the artists. Number two, they work under frequently oppressive deadlines. Number three, the characters typically have to be done according to the standard stylized version that the production company, Marvel, DC, Vertical, etc., say this is the way the character looks. That tends to stifle the creativity. There are relatively few artists like Bill Sienkiewicz who can deviate quite a bit from the original concept of the character and get away from it. So many artists are eager for the opportunity to, if you will, strut their stuff.
Okay, and therein lies, to me, what has really, and I agree with you. To me, that's one of the reasons why Image at first decided to become Image, because of the like you said, the restrictions of stylization. And then when somebody actually takes that interpretation, like say when David Mack has done Daredevil or some other artists, and all of a sudden everybody goes crazy. But if that would do you agree that if the studios allowed a little bit more freedom with the character, then it would make things a little bit better?
Well, take a look at the run that Bill Sienkiewicz did, like with Elektra, and the popularity of the sales for that book. Take a look at what happened to Daredevil when Frank Miller relaunched it. Look at what happened to DC with Batman, The Dark Knight. When some of these truly gifted artists are given some freedom to interpret and reinterpret characters as they think they need to be, you get some phenomenal results.
And that's true. Now, at the same time, I'm going to play devil's advocate here. Do you feel that sometimes maybe the studios are doing this not only because they want to protect, but then they are protecting themselves because they don't want to have the fan base go away from them when that artist finally decides to say, oh, I'm done, or there's some discrepancy, and all of a sudden there's a parting of the ways?
Well, that's a distinct possibility, and it does happen from time to time. One of the things that the studios don't typically do a lot of, that I feel they should, is there are artists who love to work with certain writers or would like to work with a writer, but they've never had the chance. And there are some amazing creative combinations out there that could happen if the studios were willing to be a little more open in conversations with, I'd like you to draw this character. Who would you like to work with as a writer? Or vice versa. I would like you to write this character. Who would you like to work with as an artist? And maybe it's somebody they've never done before. But the combination, because it's fresh and new, could be absolutely astounding. Or it could be a flash in the pan, in which case, after 2 or 3 issues, you announce an editorial change and you go to another team. But those are part of the risks of the business of doing comics.
And which is true. And do you think now it's because of this yearning to be creative? Now all of a sudden you starting to have a upheaval of sorts of certain artists now all of a sudden saying, I've had enough. They're finally snapping, saying I've had enough, and wanting to break loose and go independent.
It's not as much they're snapping as they're saying, I've done the corporate thing long enough. Now I want to do my thing. One of the classic examples I can think of right now is an artist named Sam Keith, who did for a number of years the comic book The Max. Sam has dropped completely out of comics. He is now doing his art his way for art's sake. and is fairly reclusive while he's doing it. But he's one of those guys that said, you know what, enough's enough. I want to go explore new dimensions and do new things.
And it seems like you are hitting the nail on the head. Thanks to the corporate structure, it's like all of a sudden they are forgetting that this is an art form.
Oh, I agree. But more than that, this is a fan form. The fans pay the bills. The fans attend the conventions. The fans buy the comics and the merchandise and the dolls. Without the fan base, you don't have an industry. And fans like change. They like to see innovative new approaches.
Okay, and therein lies what goes back to what you were saying about the risk, because let's sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But if you're talking with some of the names that you have talked about, most of the fans will follow, and for those who don't, once again it's up to the studio artist and you said the possible combinations of a writer to make the book work, right?
Exactly. And in fact, if you examine the true fan, there are very few aficionados of comics who follow a particular group of characters or character. They follow artists. They follow writers. They follow teams. They get very attached to them. They frequently get very upset when those teams are broken up or changed. All right, Chris Claremont and Dave Cockrum, when they did the X-Men, was a stellar combination for years. People were very upset when that team was split up and they left the book.
Oh yeah, and I remember that upheaval. I mean, everybody was like, "Why? Why are you doing this?" And that's one of the reasons that has burned me out as a comic book reader. You do get attached to the stories and the artists, and then all of a sudden they flip the script. So what do and which with this, I think you are laying a very, very potent seed with this book. So my question to you is this: now with this, I know this one is not for sale, but what do you with seeing this and everything in the right face, what do you plan to do with this book in the next 2 to 5 years?
The next project that my brother and I are now going to do is going to be exploring myths, legends, and lands. This book will also be at least 8.5 by 11 in dimension, hardcover, slip-cased, cloth-bound, sewn-in ribbon page marker, vellum covers for the prints. Every piece in the book will be a full bleed painting. It will be subjects like El Dorado, Shangri-La, Atlantis, The Witch of Endor, Phantom of the Opera, 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse, all of these mythical, legendary things we've heard about, but you've never actually seen really good images of. The artists are going to be free to choose the image they want to depict. They are going to paint it for the book. We are hoping to have between 150 and 200 artists doing their interpretations of these classic icons.
Oh, and to me that would be phenomenal, because I remember I've seen El Dorado in the comic strip way back when, and those are stories that nobody has touched in ages, or the story of Atlantis. I mean, realistically, this could, if the upper echelon of the corporate structure actually saw this, they would see a couple of series that could actually be phenomenal.
Well, imagine an artist like Samuel Clark Hallmaker, or Dave Dorman, or Minton Matthews III, or Neil Adams, any of these cast of characters, Mike Hoffman, does a painting of the city of El Dorado as they envisioned it. Something that has never actually existed, but the way they think it could be. Just imagine what that vision could look like.
Oh yeah, and then I dare to say that if once the word got out, I'm quite certain writers will want to say, well, wait a minute, what about us? What would you do for them?
We could do follow-up books then in which you do a chapter, a story on the city of El Dorado, the city of Atlantis, the kingdom of Punt, etc., where the writer then writes a story specifically for it. Very much like the Robert E. Howard short stories back in the 30s of Conan and King Cole and the Hyborian Age, that type of stuff, where you create the characters to fill the lands, or you create the arena in which the Witch of Endor lived, and what part of her life was like. In the realm of fantasy, the possibilities are endless.
Viewers, this is exactly what this man is re-envisioning what comics is all of is and was supposed to be all about. The art's interpretation. I mean, right now, I can easily see where this book already has fostered, but when this book actually comes out for the general public and they see it, it can open up a whole new creative genre where all of a sudden now writers can say, well, actually reach out to where artists could reach out to certain writers and say, I did this. What can you do? And I can easily see where behind the scenes where people could team up and collaborate.
Exactly. What I'm hoping will come out of the second book is writers will contact artists and say, I really love what you did with. How about me writing a story about that you illustrate? And vice versa. Artists contacting writers that they stand in awe of and would like to work with and say, hey, I have this vision of this character or place. I would love to illustrate a story that you wrote for it. And it could create, you're right, a whole new subculture or genre of comics, which is based upon classical myths and legends and lands.
I mean, and the whole idea and the whole concept of this is so unique. I mean, I can see where once the second project comes out, that would be a virtual. I see it off the top. That is a Instamatic collector's item because you're going to have some of the top names, and who knows, maybe some of the ones that you may not know, but it could be if it weren't for the structure. Up and comers.
Yep, it's the artist blend is going to be some of the most respected names in the business that have been doing art for 40 years, plus people who are just breaking into the field, and in some cases maybe even trying to break into the field. So it is going to span the breadth and width of the science fiction, fantasy, and comic art community.
And therein lies the whole thing. And see, and you're hitting up on so much stuff because thanks to the corporate structure of how they want to do things, and the superhero and this, that, and the other, the way they do things, they have limited themselves to only a certain genre. And to me, they're always talking about what's wrong with the industry. Well, with a project like this, I think you kind of open up a can of worms here about what's wrong with the industry.
Not so much opening a can of worms as opening a window on a world of possibilities. All right, I tend to be a positive person, not a negative person. I don't look for what's wrong. I look for what's right or what can be made right.
And therein lies the whole, there lies the whole thing. Because I always try to read what Diamond says. They're always talking about the numbers are down. Okay, I know talking with people like you and out there, I hear, where's the variety? Where's the diversity? So I think with a book like this and a project like this, all of a sudden now you present where's your market? When this book starts hitting, I know you can easily go to them and say, here is your market.
Well, let me give you a real specific example. A lot of you may, in one way or another, be familiar with the artwork of an artist named P. Craig Russell. Imagine P. Craig Russell illustrating a comic on stories of El Dorado or stories of Atlantis. Imagine an artist like Esteban Morato illustrating Lemuria or The Witch of Endor. I mean, these are things that many of the artists would give their eye teeth to be able to do, because they would have the freedom of creativity and expression to demonstrate their capabilities in the best possible light.
And therein lies what has been over the last about 20 or 30 years missing. Because I sit back and look at some of the ones who actually started it, Jack Kirby and the comic strip guys. I interviewed Joe Stanton not too long ago, and I'm saying to myself, these guys are, they're artists, and some of them have chosen the path of, okay, I'm going to do this kind of style. But when you actually tell them you got free reign, oh my God. I mean, I would love to see, not only, like you said, El Dorado, but what if Neil Adams did a major title like Spider-Man or something like that? I mean, who knows what could be?
Oh, yeah. And if you want to look at visionaries, look at the seminal artwork of people like Jack Kirby, Steve Ditko, Jim Steranko, Jean-Gerard Mobius, and as I said, P. Craig Russell. When they did things like Galactus or the Star Ranger, etc., look at the galactic spanning visions that they depicted. I mean, the artwork is just amazing. The otherworldliness of Doctor Strange, done by Steve Ditko. I mean, the artwork is frightening in how vivid and otherworldly it is. Nobody else has ever done that again.
Exactly. So when do you expect the second project to be out and released?
Our deadline for going to press on the second book, which is on Myths, Lands, and Legends, is March 31st, 2014, with a publication date to allow the debut of the book at C2E2 next year in Chicago.
You heard it right here, viewers. Be here next year, and and I hope to God, with what we're doing now, I will be here talking to this man and actually be showing off prints of this phenomenal book. Once again, I have been talking to Mike the Collector Pfeiffer, and you heard it right here. 2014 C2E2. Be here. And Mike, I hope that throughout the whole year I can get the chance to come revisit and keep our viewers in touch of what's going on with this phenomenal project.
It will be my pleasure, sir.
And once again, thank you so much for being on Lip Service.
Thank you.